Welcome back, everybody, to my Finding Wendy, my journey to wellness. And today I'm very, very happy and pleased to welcome today to my podcast. And just making sure I have the right view here so I can see both of us. And please excuse my pronunciation if I don't pronounce your name right. Dr. Chatteri Mulgary, and you go by Dr. Mel. And welcome so much for coming today. And tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us where you're calling in from. And thank you so much for joining me here on my podcast. I'm really excited to hear your experiences, your incredible experience as a psychologist, and your integrative program development, and how you can help people.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. It really is an honor. Yeah, people call me Dr. Mala, and you did a great job pronouncing. So thank you for
I tried.
No, it's great. So yeah, I mean, where would you like to begin? There's so much that we can talk about in
Well, just
terms
tell us
of
a little bit about yourself and what sort of experience you had. I understand you've done military psychology, an expert in PTSD, and all sorts of things like that you are doing.
Yeah, so currently I'm the editor-in-chief at recovery.com. I also have my own company for wellness and, a whole bunch of coaching services that we provide, the Synergy Center. So there's a lot of different avenues that I like to work on to be able to provide individuals with not only services, but also access to care, connecting people to care, and really emphasizing the idea that, everybody is on a recovery journey of some kind, and that there is hope, and that you can find help, and that it doesn't have to be as challenging as I think we think it might be, especially when we're going through the narratives that we tend to go through on our own. So, yeah.
Well, as we were discussing before I actually hit the record button on this podcast, I was telling Dr. Melly about, especially within the bariatric community, that we've had a lot of thousands and thousands of people have had bariatric surgery throughout North America, and that there is an issue that a lot of people have experienced weight regain. Mm-hmm. And that's basically the theme of my actual podcast is about finding ways to get back on track, but also finding out other information and research about, is my saying, and these big weight is lifted off my shoulders, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's genetics. It's a whole bunch of things, the environment. Yeah. Your upbringing, if you've experienced any kind of emotional and psychological stress when you were young, and just, basically all sorts of things to deal with addiction, and how to get back on track, and how to just feel motivated to not give up, and just, throw your arms in the air and say, well, I tried that and it didn't work, and yet again I had a weight regain.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's so, you hit on it, addiction, bariatric regain, they're influenced by a myriad of factors that intertwine our biological, psychological, and social spheres. So, really, it's not about personal failure. It's about understanding that there are these complex interactions that occur. And for example, with bariatric regain, changes in the body's physiology post-surgery can affect, as I'm sure all of your listeners know and have experienced, how signals like hunger and satiety are processed. How we process things gets impacted. Similarly, when we look at addiction just separately, there's brain chemistry that gets altered. And as a result, the behavior that's associated with that is going to be impacted. And, conditions can become chronic. And it's really not about simple choice at that point.
And as I read that you've had experience working with this with the military and with the people that have PTSD, and so how would you go about to start something fresh and new? Because the bariatric surgery was done and you had your honeymoon and you lost all the weight, and then after 2 years it started regaining and you just sort of gave up. To find that spark again, to not give up and to keep on going.
Yeah, I mean, stress is a significant trigger, right? So now with the regain, we're introducing yet another stress in addition to whatever you might be experiencing in your general life, right? That could also be a contributing factor to why that regain is happening. So I would say, seek comfort in habits that worked for you, right? That are healthy for you. But how do you get back there, right? Number one, I would say here are some strategies, just like seek support, right? Lean in on networks that really mean something to you, that resonate with you, whether it's professional, whether it's social or family based, or all of the above. When you have your own network of people around you, they're going to provide that empathy and understanding so that you feel understood and supported, right? The next thing that I would say is educate yourself. So whatever is going on, maybe a little bit of research as to why this regain might be happening from a biopsychosocial level. Look at what's happening with your biology. Maybe you need to go and do another checkup to see where all of the levels are at and where you're at, get that out of the way. From a psychological standpoint, do a vetting. What's going on in your life? What's happening that might be triggering additional stressors in addition to what you're experiencing with the regain? And just kind of outline, where you're at from a psychological standpoint. From a social standpoint, how are you doing with your support system? Are there people in your life that you're wanting more or less of, right? Those also can play triggers and act as triggers in your life. So educating yourself and really taking that biopsychosocial, and I would even add spiritual vetting, is going to be really, really important.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted your train of thought. Keep on going.
So the other thing that I would recommend for sure, and I always lean on this for myself personally, are mindfulness-based practices. So mindfulness can help us manage our stress, but also increase your awareness of what's going on in that biopsychosocial, spiritual level, in those levels. And it can help us really understand where we need to kind of reshape and maybe reframe the narratives that are creating not only the narrative of shame and guilt, but also any impulsive reactions that might be leading us down not so great paths. And then finally, what I would recommend, although there is a long list, this is good for now, the regular health review aspect of it, keep circling back, because that helps with a sense of accountability as well.
Yeah.
So when you have, like not only your support group, but your physicians and whoever you have in the mental health department supporting you, whether it's a psychologist, counselor, coach, what have you, make sure you've got your regular appointments with those people so that you can really help yourself with getting back onto a system of accountability that isn't just you, and you're not alone.
Yeah. It's when you're looking at the aspect of your family, your support from your family or support from your partner. Sometimes I feel like, okay, I have to do this all in secret. I can't broadcast what I'm going to be doing because if it doesn't work, then there's even more added disappointment and more added.
Right.
And so what would you suggest, and what are your experiences with about, is this going to be my journey? Should I just keep it to myself and not broadcast it to everybody? Or should I share it with everybody and seek out their support as well?
It depends on you, right? Now, I'm going to say that with an asterisk by it. This is where having, your own integrative healthcare team helps, whether you're creating the integrated team for yourself or you're walking into potentially a center that has that already built out for you, because then you're still able to have ongoing dialogue. And that's one thing that I'm always an advocate of. I don't want anybody to necessarily hold things in and carry a burden emotionally. You have to process what's going on in some way, shape, or form. You've got to debrief. So who you're choosing to do that with, your safest bet is always going to be your healthcare team. Well, hopefully, your healthcare team.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to family, that's really up to you. Like if you feel that your family is an appropriate and truly supportive set of individuals that are going to really walk alongside you on your journey and they'll help with that sense of accountability, then good to go. But if you don't feel comfortable and there's hesitation because potentially you feel certain narratives that maybe need to even be addressed in a therapeutic setting, then I would say it's okay to hold on to your journey, and not necessarily broadcast it. Everybody's journey is going to be different, and who you choose to walk alongside you is ultimately that your choice, right? And that's really empowering when we stop and when we think to ourselves, like, wait a second, I get to choose who's on my team, right? So what I say, I think that's a long story, long answer to say that feel free to choose your team, but certainly build your team. And it might be a team of a couple of people. It might be a team of 10 people, but I would say make sure you're hitting the people that, are really going to be empathic and supportive and walk alongside you.
Yeah, and you being a psychologist, I recently reached out to a psychologist through my bariatric program and team, and I must admit that it took me a long time to realize it's not about the diet, it's not about the food I'm eating. It's first thing I have to address is the psychological problem behind what is going on with myself, and that to give yourself a break. Don't be so hard on yourself. With my last meeting with my psychiatrist, he said, Wendy, you've done so well, stop being so hard on yourself. It's really, really hard to basically deal with this horrible disease. It's a disease. It's also an addiction. It's an addiction and a disease. And it's been quoted in another podcast that I was speaking to another person that it's harder to kick this addiction. It's harder to kick the food addiction than it is to kick a cocaine addiction. So it's a really, really hard thing to realize, and that to have the mental support in the case of a psychiatrist, to have regular meetings, and to just know that you have a professional ear to listen to. That's the key, seeking out professional help. So like coming back to like, what are some of the common myths about mental health and addiction that you yourself have encountered?
Yeah, I mean, that you're never going to heal. That's, that is definitely a myth. I would say it's a fear. I think the narrative that we carry is really, really telling to how a lot of these myths that we hold on to.
Oh, sorry, that's my dog. That's my dog, Winnie.
That's okay. That really come into play. When that is definitely one that I face and I've heard from so many people. Another one is it's all about willpower, right? The reality about that is that both addiction and bariatric work or regain involves complex physiological and psychological factors like we talked about, right? It goes beyond simple choice and willpower. And we need to account for all of the things that are going on from a holistic view to be able to understand what are the factors that are contributing to the current situation. And that's the other thing too. Just because you're encountering a situation today, right now, with a certain set of variables doesn't mean that if there's regain, that it's the same situation, same set of variables. So really consistently taking an evaluation and a vetting of your life and where you're at is so, so important, because we're constantly, things are changing around us. We're constantly evolving ourselves, and how we process things also evolves along with that. So it's not just about willpower, but that is a myth, is that it is about willpower. Another one is relapse or regain means that treatment has failed. The reality to that one, that myth, is that recovery in any stance is an ongoing process, and it's seldom a straight line. So relapses or regain can be part of that journey and often indicate that adjustments in the treatment plan are needed, not that the treatment has failed. And that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with, right? Again, remember that it's a journey. And even if you get to a place where you're like, I had, my initial treatment, and then now we're tapering off of that treatment and things are okay, but then all of a sudden stuff starts ramping up again and you're finding yourself, in this conundrum, that's okay. That just means that we need to tweak that treatment journey again and maybe bring that back into the picture. So again, it's not about the treatment failing or you failing. It's about, we just need to look at what's going on in life to be able to see what variables we need to address immediately and, how we want to kind of reshift and rebalance everything out to address what's happening right now.
And, what I was going to mention is that so many people in the bariatric community that have had suffered from obesity all their life also have physical issues. I myself ride around in a disability scooter. I can't walk very well. Going and lugging around 450 pounds for a big part of my life has basically done a major issue on my body. There are a lot of people, though, that are also on multiple pain medications. They have to have I was just speaking to a friend who's having knee replacement surgery, and so there's just so many other factors that are involved with the stress component, but also the mental pressure of dealing with pain, and then dealing with, I'm in so much pain, I just need something to relax me, and you go back to food because it has a soothing component to it. It gives you, dopamine, and you're feeling better because you're just in so much pain, and I just going to eat some carbs. I'm just going to have some mac and cheese. I'm just going to have some popcorn, bag of chips, or some chocolate. And that whole dynamic where, because so the multiple layers that are happening where you've got the regain. Oh God, it didn't work. I have the guilt. Oh God, what does everybody think about me? I failed yet again, and I had this surgery. And you just sort of scroll up and into a little ball onto the couch and just not go outside anymore, in the sense that you don't want to talk about it. You don't want people taking pictures of you. You start pulling back from social media, because people will say, "Hey, what happened? What happened? You lost all this weight and now you regained it." So that kind of pressure, and that you're at the same time trying to pick yourself up, trying to pick up the pieces. Like, I'm Humpty Dumpty, I fell off the wall, all the pieces are all over the place, and now how do you pick up these pieces and just start again?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? Any disease, I argue, can be a disease of isolation. Isolation ends up becoming a symptom for so many of them. So the narratives that end up showing up, right, they will try to convince you that being alone and isolating yourself is okay, and it's wanted, it's warranted, right? So when you get that narrative, I can't encourage this enough. Find a way to, even in the most baby steps that you can possibly take, connect not only with yourself, that's one category, but connect with your sense of community, whatever that team is that you're building or need to rebuild. Find those moments of connection, because that's going to be part of what builds a foundation, a platform for you to be able to operate from, to recommence or continue your healing journey. So connection is really important. Just the littlest step that you can take, whatever it is. Maybe it's making the phone call. Maybe it's sending the text message. Maybe it's taking an extra 5 minutes or the first 5 minutes to meditate and find yourself again, to connect with yourself. Whatever it is, start somewhere. It all counts.
Yeah, it definitely counts. So what advice would you give to people that are looking for support? So obviously reaching out to the bariatric community, doing your own research, listen to podcasts. Like when I was talking to my psychiatrist a couple of weeks ago, I was super excited because I was listening to the Huberman Lab, and I was listening to this podcast and that podcast, and I was gathering all this really exciting information about possibilities of continuing on with my journey. But it comes down to, there's so much out there, and it's like, where do I start? So how would you, if you're talking about baby steps, or do one small thing, and just to emphasize what you said before, that having this never ends. It's a never-ending journey. It's going to be, and that's with the whole multi-billion-dollar diet industry, that you're just told over and over again, this is the cure, this is the cure, this is the cure. Try this diet, try Atkins, try Weight Watchers, try Ozempic, try Wegovy. And this is something that for myself, that the realization that I was born with this genetic disorder. I'm a mutant. I have an obesity gene. My insulin levels are too high. this is something I have to deal with the rest of my life. And having bariatric surgery, a lot of people thought, well, this is it. This is the cure. I'm going to have the bariatric surgery and I'm never going to experience yo-yoing again. But yet again, it's not true.
So your question is how to navigate that commentary?
To navigate the commentary for sure, but also to not feel guilty about what has happened, so that you can just, break open the doors, get out of your hibernation at home and start engaging with the world again, and not becoming, I can't do this, I'm not going to go to the party because I know that people are going to say something if I stand anywhere near the buffet table, or I can't wear that those nice pair of pants anymore, so I'm not going to bother going outside. And it's just not engaging in life again. A lot of people, like for me, it was that I felt hopeless, and that I have to get back on track, and I have to find a way to get myself motivated again. So I would say, something like find a way to get out and do stuff.
So I have my A4 method that I like to refer everybody to, and that is, number one, you've got to acknowledge what's going on. If you shame yourself for the fact that you're having a narrative that's negative, it's not going to help you get anywhere. You've got to acknowledge the feelings that are coming to the surface, get them out of your system, but hold a timer to it. So if you need to take a moment to be like, oh, I'm so frustrated with this, I'm angered by this, whatever, that's fine. Get it out of your system, whether it's journaling, voice journaling, talking to a friend, talking to your therapist, writing out your story, whatever, get it out of your system, but hold a timer to it. Once that timer goes off, then I want you to acknowledge, here's your second A, what it is that you're wanting to bring to your life. Because ultimately, staying in that negative space is not what you want to do. The reality is you don't want to live in negativity, right? You want to feel better. So acknowledge what it is that you want to bring to your life that will help you feel better, that will help you, that you're aspiring towards, okay? That's the second acknowledgement piece. The third is action planning. So this is where those baby steps come in, where you can say, well, I know I want to get back to a place where I'm connecting with my community and the people. What's one step that I can take today brings me closer to that, right? Maybe that one step is, like I said, sending that text message, or calling up the clinics that you go to and that you refer people to even, and say, I need to set up an appointment, and get that going. Then you can give yourself the space to say, all right, I got that first step done. What does a medium-term goal look like? What does a long-term goal look like as part of the action plan? And writing that down and keeping it in front of you is a great way to remind yourself, wait a second, I am taking steps, right? Because let's face it, those negative Nancy comments, the narratives are gonna show up, right? Because you're used to going there, and you're used to going there because there's a part of you that might even believe that you need those negative narratives in order to survive, right? But the reality is you can quiet those. Just as you were inviting those narratives in, you can also reshape them, quiet them down, put them in shape, and focus on this A, which is the action planning. And remind yourself, no, I've got this. I hear you, but I don't need to give in to you because I have a plan. And today, this is what I'm doing. And maybe the next day it's, I've got my appointment set up, but today I'm going to take 5 extra minutes for mindfulness. And that's a win. And then the fourth A is accountability. So that's, again, coming back to your team and thinking, how am I going to be accountable with myself? Well, I'm journaling, I'm keeping my schedule, I've got my checklist that I can cross off, and it helps with my dopamine every single time I check those, those to-do items off. But I also know that I have my integrative team that I've built for myself, or that I'm part of. And you know what? I guess I'm going to reach out to my friend today, or I'm going to reach out to my coach today and just do a check-in.
Yeah.
And that's my step for today.
It's and what I've learned the most about in this journey, in this where is Wendy and what's going on in my wellness journey, is indeed talking about it, reaching out, doing research. Don't give up. Just keep on going. I'm an optimistic person anyway, and I'm just like, I have to solve this puzzle. the puzzle being me and Wendy, the obese woman who has done everything and anything on the planet to help with the weight issue, but also to not feel guilty about it. It's like if you've experienced abuse growing up, and we've all of us have been bullied one way or another, even if you're not even obese. High school, junior high is a really hard place for a lot of people that have been, in one way or another, bullied. And but you're also you're actually bullying yourself every time you look in a mirror and say, oh my God, Wendy, what the hell happened? What are you doing? Where is the old Wendy? And that all of these things sort of piling up one step at a time is definitely, and that's a great advice about writing down and setting goals and journaling, and those are things. So if somebody would like to, for example, speak to you, and where are you located? Do you do this online, or can you help coach people, and what do you offer?
Sure. So my company, the Synergy Center, offers a full range of coaching as well as wellness services. You can find us at thesynergycenter.net. You can also find me, drmala.net, if you wish to reach out to me directly. There's a whole multitude of services that are out there, and sometimes it can be really daunting to find what those resources can be. Wonderful site, recovery.com is a very comprehensive place to visit, to be able to not only find resources, but also in education, but also centers that help with specific problems and issues, from addiction to eating disorders to full range of anything.
Yeah.
And it is very comprehensive. So I can't recommend that.
Yeah, because, and you're located in the U.S., right? What state?
Yes. I'm located in Florida right now.
Yeah.
In the U.S., but we are doing all virtual. So everything, both the Synergy Center, my company, is virtual.
It's virtual, yeah.
And recovery.com is globally accessible. So
yeah. Well, it's all, the pandemic has opened up a lot of doors for
sure.
this global accessibility for all of these things. And so, of course, I'll put the links in the podcast, in the description area. I think this was really a great sort of short meet and greet, because I've actually received some, suggestions, not comments, but suggestions about the length of my podcast, that I should just try to keep it at 30 minutes and not longer, because people listen to podcasts when they're on the go, doing the dishes, driving from point A to point B, or working out at the gym. And my last podcast was nearly an hour and a half, and it's just too long. But I think that this was really, really interesting. And, the two of us, and just to let people know, two of us met through this really great dating app, which is called Podmatch. So if any of you listeners out there would like that have skills, or have, something to offer, that you have a podcast, or you'd like to be a guest on a podcast, sign up for podmatch.com, because that's how I found you, Dr. Mala, or how we found each other, because it works with keywords, and you set up your profile and say, I'm gorgeous, I'm good looking, or whatever. No, you the keywords with your key tags, behavioral health, mental health, psychology, substance use expert, stuff like that. And the algorithms hooked us up. I think that, it's really, really cool how it works. So podmatch.com, for everybody out there listening, is a great platform to meet other people that either want you on their podcast, or you would like to join them on your podcast. It's really, really cool. So this has really been great, and thank you so much. Greetings to Florida, and this is Wendy in Toronto, Canada, and it's a beautiful hot summer day, and it's the end of the summer. And the interesting thing, and you probably have that too, is that we're coming up to September, and September is the new school year. And I always feel like I wish I was back at school, because then I can go out to the local store and buy a new binder, a new pencil case, a new agenda, so maybe this is incentive to go out and buy a really nice looking agenda and a really good pen, some fun pen with some fluffy stuff on top, or a silly pen, and just feel like it's a new year or a new beginning. Like, don't give up hope. It's going to be, it's a new school season. So let's say it's a new wellness season, September, and the summer's coming to a close. We here in Canada, we're going to be freezing for 6 months, and
Well,
and it's just a great way to think about, how am I going to get this started? Wait a minute, school year, start new, yeah, whatever. What do you
for
think?
sure. I love it. Like, here's the thing. You can never have enough of that smell of fresh crayons and freshly sharpened pencils.
Oh
I
yeah.
That in and of itself is such a wonderful
Yeah,
motivator.
yeah, for sure. Or you buy a cool agenda. Then nowadays these agendas come with stickers, and
Yeah.
you can buy like a whole pencil case of crayons, or colored pencils, and you can start being creative, and just
Right.
even if you don't have anything to say, today I had soup, or today I ate a bag of chips, or
Yeah.
today I spoke to a psychiatrist. So
Mhm.
that you just basically find a way to journal, because I journal as well, to journal about each day, and then you can look back at it and say, actually, that was a good day,
Right.
and things like that.
Well, and so many people think that journaling has to be some cumbersome narrative, of your day with length. And one of the things that I always say is no, even if you're writing one word down, that's
Yeah,
enough.
yeah,
So give yourself that time and the space. What really matters is the space that you are holding for yourself. And that is whether it's filled with writing down one word or writing down an essay, then that's fine. Or even voice recording, right? It's
yeah.
fine. Do give yourself that space, hold that space, let that be part of your journey, but also the self compassion that you're trying to build into again, or maintain and reinforce, and know that it's about you giving yourself that time back.
Don't give up. Don't give
Yeah.
up. It's not your
Yeah.
fault. Just keep
Yeah.
on going. Don't give up. And that's it. Well, this has been great, Dr. Malas. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
joining me here on my podcast. And
Thank you for having
again,
me.
I'll put in all the links of everything you mentioned, and I'll have the podcast up in about a week, I think, because I can only have a certain amount of podcasts
Sure.
every other week. And then we'll just hopefully some people will reach out, and if they want to chat more with you, they know where to reach you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me, Wendy. It was a pleasure.
It was great. Thank you so much. I'll just